everybody, this is Stacy, and I have with me tonight Ella. Ella is half of the equation in this stall. She lives with Sophie, and they are actually sisters. Their story is a little bit different in that they weren't necessarily a hard luck rescue, but they were a preemptive rescue, we'll put it that way. Both girls were owned by a person who owned really, really large scale carnivals, like the massive roller coasters and things like that, big time carnivals. And so he would also hand raise his own ponies for pony rides. And these girls were both supposed to be just fall into line with his business. And it just so happened that they were in a location where we were able to frequently stop and see them. And Ella right here would always come up to the fence and see us. She's a very sweet girl. And so we worked really hard to convince the owner to sell her to us, and it worked. We were able to buy her. It wasn't easy, and it didn't go as flawlessly as we would have hoped, but and I'll explain that when I introduce you to Sophie. But we were able to get her, and Ella's big thing, she's as good as gold, and I know I use that term a lot on our horses, but we're just really lucky. Our horses are really, really good, sweet natured horses. And but Ella did have a period in her life where she was not so great, and that's when she had her baby, and her baby is Lucy. We'll introduce you to her baby in the next coming episodes. But she refused her at birth, and it was a really, really difficult time for all concerned. It was hard for Ella, it was hard for Lucy, and it was hard for myself and everyone else that was taking care of Lucy as a baby. Once we got past that, Ella reinvented herself, and she really is just a very, very good girl. So having come from a field at the age of 2 and having very little interaction with people, both she and Sophie learned to socialize really, really well, easily and quickly. And so we did not have any of the behavior issues with them that we did with some of our other horses that lived in more rural life or isolated life from people. She was in a parade. She did beautifully in it. We did practice runs to make sure that she'd be able to do it. Sophie did the parade as well. So I would say we got very lucky with these girls. They came with bonus babies. We didn't know both of them were pregnant, but this is Ella, and one thing I will add about her. Ella has a propensity to colic, and that means basically colic can be a catch-all term for not feeling well. And
hi, sweet girl.
And so once a horse colics, they have the tendency to colic again. And unfortunately, we have to be very careful with Ella and watch out for her whenever there's rapid changes in the weather or anything funky that's going on in the world. Sometimes can just affect their GI system. So we do keep a special eye on her. And that's about it. She's beautiful. She's got this gorgeous mane. And she's just an all-around great girl. So that's Ella. Annie, your turn. Okay, so here we have Sophie, and Sophie is, like I said, Ella's sister. And when we got both of them, little did we know that both mares were pregnant. The thing about both girls is that they were both very young. They were only 2. So to have a baby at 2 years of age is like a baby having a baby. And that's most likely the reason why Ella refused her baby. She didn't know what to do with it, and she didn't want it around. So, so that's most likely why she did. Sophie, on the other hand, was like a professional mother. It was her only baby. Her baby is Betsy, and she just raised her beautifully. Betsy and Lucy, the two babies, it's funny because since Betsy was raised by Sophie, her mother, and Lucy was raised by us, Lucy was kind of this, I don't want to say she was a little wild child, but she was just kind of, I don't know, silly and maybe a little spoiled. And it was as if Sophie would always kind of tell Betsy, oh, don't go play with her. Like she was off limits. And so the two babies really didn't get much playtime together. But anyway, Sophie's an awesome girl. When in I think episode 2, when we talk about Bambi and Milton, and I mentioned the fact that when Bambi was sick and how she lost her lead mare status in the herd, Sophie is the one that took her place. So Sophie has that ability to be bossy and to stand at the gate and pin her ears at the other horses, saying that she wants to go in. But that only happened during that very short transitional period where Bambi was recovering. She is not the lead mare, but she is always on the ready to step into that role. Otherwise, I would say both of these girls are truly, knock on wood, some of the easiest horses that we have in this barn. They literally do anything that we ask of them. They're both beautiful. Although Sophie has always had a little bit of kind of a weathered face with this little light streak of white down her face. She's always had kind of a little bit of an aged look about her, just because of that, because it's not really profound. It's just kind of whispery on her. But they're both...
they look identical.
They do look pretty identical. She has a fuller mane. The other thing about Sophie, too, is that when we got her, we were only going to get Ella, okay? That's the one that they said they would sell us. The person that was going to meet my husband and I there did not show up. And so I got back in the car. It was about an hour and a half away from us. Got back in the car. I told my husband, I don't know what happened, but I'll have to contact these people and see what's wrong. And I said, I'm gonna feel sorry for this other horse who is always by Ella. Well, we didn't have her named at that time, but who was always by her, but yet would never come up to the fence. That was Sophie. And I said, I'm gonna feel bad leaving this one behind. And my husband, who's a really great guy, said, well, you're going to have to get them both. And I said, of course, thank you. And he said, and I'm going to tell you what to name her. I said, okay, what do you think we should name her? He said, name her Sophie. I said, okay, I love that name, but why do you want me to name her Sophie? And he said, well, this way, you won't have to make a Sophie's choice. So, here we
Sophie.
go. Sophie. That's Ella. This is Sophie. Two great girls.